So this piece is entitled Enfold, and it's so beautiful. It's the one that really took you the longest in the series. What can you tell me about this pose and what was the genesis of this concept?
So this piece is actually the final piece of, kind of a transition piece between the last series that I was working on and then this series, because it took so long to make. The model I actually photographed 5 years ago, and the piece itself took about 3 years for me to finish. So there's a lot of layering on this piece in particular. The pose has actually moved across the piece, across the face of the piece multiple times. She kind of travels back and forth until she found where she wanted to be. Yes. So the concept was a bit different than the other ones that when I was photographing the model. But the two series kind of flow together in a lot of ways. So this is actually the final piece of a triptych that I was working on with Embrace and To Hold, two other pieces that you've shown here before. And so, yeah.
And so what was, when you were, like we were talking about the last piece, the way that it was the Stations of the Cross that were kind of inspiring the pose. Was there some similar inspiration when you were talking about asking her to take this particular posture?
Yeah, so with this one, the Annunciation is a strong influence. And so again, the concept of very strong, powerful moment, a woman who is in a very strong, powerful, yet very vulnerable moment of accepting that vulnerability, accepting that role, that work, and how her strength comes through that acceptance, in so many ways, through that meekness, or I guess vulnerability is a better one, but
accepting that this was going to be her role.
Yes. Yeah. And how much strength that had to take for this particular individual to do that.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't good news all the time. Yeah.
quite terrifying news, I would think.
Yes.
And tradition has it that the angel had to comfort her and tell her not to fear.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like the most comforting moment in one's life to be presented by holiness and be told that
you're gonna be the
bearer of God.
Yeah.
A little overwhelming.
Yeah.
I could imagine. Just to carry a human seems rather overwhelming.
Right. Well, and speaking of which, I mean, since you initiated this pose, you've had, is it 3 children?
Yes. Yeah. So
3 of your children have been born since then, and so you went from being a mother of 1 to being a mother of 4.
Yes.
As you look back and kind of think of where you were then, where you are now, both how you and the series have changed over time, does this have specific or special meaning for you, this particular piece?
It does. I struggled a lot with this piece, and I think that I because I was going through so many changes. My first child was born spring break of when I graduated art school, and so then multiple come, and I'm attempting to continue doing it, and so a lot of the struggles of being a mom and raising a family and trying to work out all of those nuances definitely goes into the piece. And this piece in particular was incredibly difficult. The way she was lit, the way her pose, there were a lot of complications but one thing, and I've had one friend ask me the role of the pose versus the abstract setting composition, what comes first, and they both kind of happen simultaneously. So the pose and the strong kind of two blues kind of unfolding from the middle we're both there the entire time. So those are stationed throughout the whole time of the piece. And like I said, that the pose had moved across the board, and so she didn't find her position
Right away.
at first, but her pose and the overall composition of the abstract is pretty set from the beginning, and then nuances are kind of built into it.
I love it. Well, I feel like, you know, it really does resonate as like the anchoring piece of the whole series, because of how strong, I think the strength is so evident. I think some of the other poses are so beautiful and the vulnerability is there, and there is of course a sense of strength, but I think there's something that's just so empowering about this particular pose and where she sits in the center of the canvas, and I just want to say it's beautiful. Thank you for putting your heart and soul into this.
Thank you.
Yeah.